Second, inflation produced an 8.7% cost of living adjustment, or COLA, for Social Security beneficiaries in 2023, the biggest percentage jump since 1981. That translates into a $146 boost in the average monthly retirement benefit. And there are a host of other Social Security changes this year that we'll discuss tonight. Hello, and welcome to Rural America Live with AARP. I'm Christina Loren. Social Security is a key component of the American Retirement Plan, but many don't completely understand how to make the most of it. And failure to understand your options can be costly. Tonight, our special guest will answer your Social Security questions head on. And our friends from AARP will share resources to help you navigate the road to financial security. And you, my friends, are a big part of this show. Our question of the month is, how does Social Security help you and your family? We want to hear from you tonight. And we're giving away a hard side cooler to 5 lucky on-air callers. So pick up the phone now. Join our conversation. We're wasting no time in taking your calls, and our phone lines are open. Give us a call one more time, that number. You might want to grab a pen, 877-283-7570. And as a friendly reminder, you don't need to be over the age of 50 or a member of AARP to win, but you can only win one time each calendar year. Now, if you are a winner tonight, AARP will call you back in the next few days to confirm your mailing address, so make sure to take their call or return their call if you prefer that they leave a message. Now we welcome our friends from AARP, familiar face and fan favorite. Oh, that's right. Regional Vice President Sarah Jennings. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you. It's always great to be here.
Oh, we love having you. We love watching you do the minutes as well when you're not here.
Yeah.
You're always giving us great tips even when you're not here on set with us. We
Absolutely.
appreciate you. And joining us tonight as well, a new face to some. This is Minnesota AARP Director Kathy McClear. Thank you so much for joining us as well, all the way from Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota. Happy to be here.
A little bit more mild here naturally. I have a feeling I know why.
Yeah, definitely.
In just a few moments, we're going to welcome special guest, Social Security expert Steve Richardson, to the panel to answer your questions live on the air. So give us a call at 877-283-7570, and you might just be a winner tonight. Our show is loaded with incredibly useful information about Social Security, so let's get started. I want to start with a basic question for you, Sarah. Yeah. How do Social Security payments work?
Well, it is a great question, and I am going to talk mostly about the program that most people think of when they think of Social Security, and that's the retirement benefit. We can answer questions about the other programs within Social Security in our next segment with Steve, who's our expert. But for purposes of retirement, which again is what I think most people think of when they hear the word Social Security, there's a formula of credits and years worked, and then how much you're making. But the way I would boil it down is that you need to have worked 10 years, at least 10 years, and have reached the age of 62. And then at that point, there's decisions that you need to make about when you want to claim Social Security, the amount of your benefit. It depends on how much you paid into the system over the years. And so if you're curious about what your number is and what you've put in there that you've earned over the years, there's lots of different tools we're going to talk about on the program today that you can go check that out. And one is at the Social Security Administration at ssa.org. You can actually go on there, get an account, and start to check into what your number is right now. If you haven't paid into Social Security, for the most part, you're not eligible for a benefit, but there are spousal benefits and some other things that, again, we're happy to take questions about and we'll talk about later in the show.
So many people have so many questions, which is why we're here tonight. I'm really excited about bringing in our expert. But before we do, we talked about that large COLA increase at the top of the show, which is great, but unfortunately, it's also lighting up the scammers out there. Talk a little bit about how they're upping their game and going after recipients, Kathy.
Yeah, the minute those scammers heard that there was going to be an 8.7% increase, which is about $146 for the average Social Security beneficiary, those scammers went into action, and they're using some pretty interesting techniques. So one is called the spray and pray. And so what that is they really target areas of the country that have a large population of seniors where they live, and they can do a couple of things. They're going to get you all emotional and concerned. They might ask you for a fee to process your personal information. You don't have to do anything to get this increase in your Social Security benefit check. It will just come to you. So if someone is asking you to pay a fee or buy a gift card or transfer money, that's a pretty big red flag. And they're super smart. They're going to try to spoof on the caller ID so it looks like it's coming from the Social Security Administration, but it's not them. And they might even do some things like, oh, well, let me get you in touch with my supervisor or another official to make it seem like they're really legitimate.
They're tag teaming it. Yeah,
they are absolutely
terrible.
tag teaming it. So we have some tips on how to maybe spot that scam and then how to prevent it. And so one of the things you're going to want to do is just pause and take a breath. I think the other thing it's important to know is that the Social Security Administration will never call you out of the blue. So if you're getting that phone call, you need to just take a second and either hang up. Social Security will their first initial reach out to you will be some sort of an official letter. And if someone on the phone is asking you for your Social Security number, do not give that out because the Social Security Administration already has your Social Security number. Right. They're not going to be asking you for it. So again, don't transfer any money. Again, that big red flag is if they're asking you to go buy a bunch of gift cards to send them money in order to process your information. Be skeptical. Again, if they're telling you they're going to send you to the next level supervisor, you might need to ask yourself, is this really someone who knows what they're talking about? Don't provide that personal information or any financial data. Again, always, check and verify. So if you do have questions, you can hang up the phone and then call the Social Security Administration yourself and say, hey, I got this weird phone call. Did you call me? They're going to tell you no. If you get any sort of an email or a text message, don't click on those links. Don't open any attachments. That's another way those scammers are going to get you. So again, if you have any concerns or questions about what someone is telling you when they've called you on the phone, just hang up. Call the Social Security Administration on your own and verify that information. You can also report it. If you've been targeted with one of these scams, you can report it to the Social Security Administration and let them know that this scam is out there.
Okay, well, we already have callers anxious to ask their questions tonight. We're excited about that. The number one more time is 877-283-7570. And when we come back, our special guest, Social Security expert, someone that you can ask your question, whatever it is, you can ask him tonight. We want you to join our conversation. You might just be a winner. I'm going to give you that number one more time, 877-283-7570. Stay with us. More Rural America Live with AARP right after this.
How do I apply for Social Security benefits?
For retirement and spousal benefits, you can apply online once you've opened a My Social Security account at ssa.gov. You can also apply by phone or by visiting your local Social Security office.
What information or documents will I need when I apply?
You'll have to provide your date and place of birth, marital history, and your number of children. You'll also need to know start and stop dates for any jobs in the last 2 years and report income from any self-employment in the last 2 years. Have your most recent W-2 or self-employment tax return ready. If you're a veteran, you'll need your dates of service and may need your service papers. You might also need your Social Security card, birth certificate, and if you were born abroad, proof of legal status. Also be sure to have your bank account type and number and your bank's routing number. Social Security needs this information to set up direct deposit for your benefit payments.
What if I'm applying for survivor benefits?
If you're applying for survivor benefits, online is not an option. You can only file by phone or in person and should have the same documents I just mentioned. To learn more, go to aarp.org/Social Security.
Welcome back to Rural America Live with AARP. Tonight, we are unpacking the various components of the Social Security system and discussing the changes taking place in 2023. And our friends from AARP brought along an expert tonight to answer your questions directly. Stephen Richardson joins us now, along with Sarah Jennings, AARP Regional Vice President, and Kathy McClear is with us as well. She's the director for AARP Minnesota, and you are a big part of our show. Our phone lines are open. We want to hear from you. How does Social Security help you and your family? Give us a call and let us know. 877-283-7570. We are giving away hard-sided coolers. These are really high-quality coolers to 5 lucky on-air callers tonight. Give us a call and you could be a winner. Good luck to you. Stephen, welcome to the show. Before we head to the phones, I want our audience to get a chance to get to know you a little bit better. Talk a little bit about your history with the Social Security Administration.
Well, Christina, thank you very much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here and working with these great people at AARP. I think, in 40 years of doing this job, although there were a lot of changes that have taken place in the country has changed, and the dynamics and the populations, the number of people paying in. What I've always understood and what I've always, come to realize, and years ago, was all questions are good questions. Any question somebody has regarding their Social Security benefits going forward are good questions. They're all good questions. There's no such thing as a bad question.
All right. Well, we'll have the whole show.
We're gonna have you on the hot seat
the rest of the hour to decide whether or not that's true. You know what? You're absolutely right, though. And that leaves it open to you, our audience. We know we have lots of callers already waiting to ask questions. There is still room for your call. Let's go right to the phones tonight. We're going to Maine, where Merton joins us. Thanks for joining us, Merton. Go right ahead. Merton, are you with us? Okay.
How you doing?
There you are. We're great. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Do you have
Can I draw my Social Security on my ex-wife's earnings?
Yeah, I think this question I'm often asked throughout my working life. One of the most common questions that I would get, is it going to be there for me? All those, The most common questions are spouses questions. They always are. Mm-hmm. Spousal benefits, survivor benefits, divorced spouses benefits. So the basic rules regarding divorced spouses benefits: you have to be married over 10 years, not remarried before 60. And the biggest part of it is you really want to reach out to your local Social Security office, because therein lies the answer. If you're due more benefits under your own account number, and you're age eligible, you'll likely have to draw from your own. You're only eligible as a divorced spouse only if the yield is higher from your ex. So this information is available to you. You just have to have your marriage certificate and your divorce decree to prove your duration of marriage and going forward. But reach out to your local Social Security office. They'll have all that information for you. That's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. We have Mark now joining us from Illinois, our first winner tonight. Woo-hoo! Congratulations to you, Mark. Go right ahead with your question.
Well, thank you for having the show this evening. We look forward to gathering a lot of useful information. I am collecting Social Security, and I'm very happy with the program. And I have what might be a silly question, but nonetheless, I'll go ahead with it. My wife is several years younger than I am, and we wonder if there is a minimum age that it's necessary to set up an online account. I obviously have an online account, but does she have to wait until she's, say, 62, or when can she open that account?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I spent my career talking about creating Social Security accounts for yourself, and there's just 2 reasons really to do it. Number one is to answer your question, which is to let your wife know what she's eligible for, right? Because the only way you're going to get your Social Security statement if you're younger than age 60 is to create an account for yourself and go online and pull down your Social Security statement. Once you turn 60, you'll be mailed by Surface Mail a Social Security statement 3 months before your birthday every year. So that's where it all starts. The second reason you would create a Social Security account, so the short answer to your question is do it tomorrow. Right? The second reason for creating a Social Security account is post-adjudicatively. Once you're drawing your benefits, you want to create an account for security purposes. And once done, you can change your address, direct deposit changes, get a 1099 replacement, Medicare card replacement. There's so many services available to you, but you got to create that Social Security account for yourself.
I love it. Don't waste any time. Excellent advice. 877-283-7570. That's the number to call with your question. Lisa from Pennsylvania is next up. Thanks for joining us, Lisa. Go right ahead.
Yes, I keep getting phone calls from ALLSOP telling me that Social Security wants me to they want me to go back to work to get off my disability. And I'm just wondering if this is a scam call or if this is a call from Social Security telling them. I didn't think Social Security had a second somebody.
No, the short answer to that is no. There is no connection between that organization or that group and organization and the Social Security Administration. I think just by the fact that you're drawing Social Security disability insurance benefits, you understand that, look, it's not just a retirement program. It's also benefits for spouses, for spouses and survivors, and as we spoke earlier about divorced spouses. But there's also that insurance protection, that Social Security disability insurance benefit. Look, you paid in, you're younger than 62, you can't work anymore. How do you go about drawing that money that's been in this account? And you do it in the form of a Social Security disability insurance benefit. So the short of it is there is no connection between that group and Social Security. I hope that helps.
Well, and I'd love to jump on because I got to give Lisa a shout out for sort of questioning a call that seems sketchy, just like what Kathy was talking about earlier. There's a lot of people out there trying to take your money or trying to, make sure you don't get what you deserve. And in this case, it's great of you, Lisa, that you questioned it, asked the question, and didn't just take a call that seemed a little, maybe gave you a pause and you didn't do what they told you to. You really did your research. So kudos, and I hope everyone out there does the same if they get some sort of similar call, whether it's about disability benefit or your retirement benefit.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll follow that example, Lisa. Yeah. We're going to Frank now in Michigan, our next winner. Congratulations to you, Frank. Wow. Go right ahead with your question.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Hello.
Hey, you're up, Frank. Go right ahead.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm already drawing Social Security for 22 years, but I want to change my bank. I'm changing banks, so I want to change Social Security to the new bank, and that's what I need to know how to do.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways to do it, and as we pointed out earlier, if you haven't created a My Social Security account for yourself and go online and do it that way, not everybody's going to do that. I understand it. We understand it. The agency understands it. There are options for you. You can contact your local Social Security office, and if you don't know where the local Social Security office is, you can find that information online or have a friend or a relative or a niece or a nephew or a neighbor, access that information about the location of the office, number one. And number two, they have an 800 number, 772-1213, 800-772-1213. And you can contact them and go about negotiating your direct deposit information. What I would urge you, however, is to keep that bank account open for at least a month. The old account. You with me there? So when you go ahead and make the change, you want to make sure there's no overlapping and you don't get into separation or you don't get a delay in one of your payments. Excellent. Good question.
Yeah, great guidance as well. Appreciate that. Only an expert is going to be able to answer questions like that for you, and you don't have to wait on the line with the Social Security Administration. All you got to do is call us tonight, 877-283-7570. Before we go to our next call, Sarah, there are also some great resources that AARP provides.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we have a lot of different resources. A lot of them are online. So for those of you that are comfortable going online, I hope you'll check it out at aarp.org/Social Security. And there we have, it's a resource center that has all sorts of information about when you want to claim, questions you might have. Some of these questions we've had about your spousal benefits or your other benefits, questions about some of the scams that Kathy talked about. And as you're seeing there on the screen, there's just a wealth of information on there. And I believe when you put a question in there, Stephen is going to be the one often responding and writing those answers. So a lot of the good content that you're going to see on there will be stuff that you'll now be able to put a face with the author of a lot of that good information with Stephen. But there's just a ton of information. And so if you have a question, I bet we have an answer.
Yeah, you put some credibility behind it tonight,
That's right.
Stephen.
That's right.
What needs to be considered before deciding when to file for Social Security at age 62, for example?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of factors that come into play. Social Security is going to represent about 41% of your pre-retirement income, right? It's a sizable piece of the pie. Yeah. So you really have to pay attention to all the rules and all the moving parts. And know that, as you pointed out, the first age of eligibility is age 62, but there are other factors involved with going at 62, like, are you still working? And if you're still working, you're only allowed to make just over $21,000 a year. So if you're still a full-time worker and you're 62 and a half, or 63, it's unlikely you'll be eligible to draw. Your earnings are just too high. So stopping work has a lot to do with it. When you're at age 62. Now the rules change going forward. Everybody has what's called a full retirement age, or what the agency calls the FRA. And it's based on your year of birth. If you were born after 1960, your full retirement age is 67. So it's at that point forward in your life that the agency is not interested at all if you're working or not. You're eligible to walk in and draw your benefits and continue to work if you wish to. So these other factors to consider, and there's a lot of factors. And again, I always pull it back to, just from years of doing this job, that it's really all about spouses' benefits. And when you draw, if you're the primary wage earner in the house, can affect the spouse's benefit, or your spousal draw from spouse A or spouse B later on in life. So it's a long-term decision that really needs to be taken into consideration. So there's many things to consider. And just like I pointed out in my opening, it's all about education. Yep. All questions are good questions.
And you spent 40 years with the Social Security Administration, so you are fully eligible for the full benefit. And that's where you got your education. And I love that. I'm thrilled to have you on tonight.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to Oregon, the Pacific Northwest, next to speak with Kevin. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. Go right ahead.
Well, good evening. My wife and me had the daughters together. We were married for 10 years and got divorced when I was 25 and she was 23. Now, it's time. She'll be 62 this year. She is already on Social Security disability because she had a liver transplant. But is there a way she can apply and see which she could draw, what would be higher to be on mine or not? And you said one thing that caught my attention. You said if she had not remarried before she was 60?
Yes, that's one of the provisions. I mean, your spouse could be eligible for benefits as long as you were married over 10 years and in general terms, not remarried before 60. You did point it out. You basically answered the question as you went along there, is that, yeah, there is a way. There is a way that your spouse can figure out what a potential benefit would be. And again, it's always going to be a higher yield. If she's due a higher benefit from you than she is herself, that's the road she's going to go down. And to do so, contact your local Social Security office. She has to have the marriage certificate and the divorce decree to prove duration of marriage. And she'll be privy to the information from your account to find out what the benefit payment would be. And again, she's eligible as a independently entitled divorced spouse. And what the distinction there is that you, sir, do not have to file yourself in order for her to draw under your account number. Had you not been divorced, you would have to file. You would have to put pen to paper and draw your own retirement benefits in order for your spouse to draw into your account. But the fact that you are divorced, she's potentially eligible for a higher benefit under the independently entitled divorced spouse provision.
All right, excellent questions coming in tonight, and that leaves a line open for you. Our next caller is going to be a winner. It could be you, 877-283-7570. I'm hearing our next winner is from Wyoming this evening.
Right.
Ed joins us now. Thanks for joining us, Ed. Go right ahead.
Thank you. My question is, on the every year, Social Security will send you a copy of what your increase will be. It'll break down how much is going to be taken out of your Social Security check for Medicare and your taxes. Now, my question is, can you deduct that amount of money that's being taken out for your Medicare premium?
Okay, is it IRS? Is it a taxation question? You would receive a cost of living increase. Becomes in the fall. Once the cost of living is announced, all beneficiaries would receive a notification of what the benefit payment is going to be, and also what the new Part B premium is. And by the way, the Part B premium went from $170.10 down to $164.90 for 2023, and the 8.7% cost of living increase based on the Consumer Price Index of urban wages. Says the benefit was higher than any kind of a Part B premium, whether it was increased or decreased. So you would get that cost of living increase. In terms of what the write-off is for the Medicare, I think you do want to speak to your accountant more of an IRS question than it is a Social Security question. Just know what the rest of your, like any other tax question, is all a number of other factors involved and what other income you might have as well. I hope that helps.
Okay. Thank you so much for that call, Ed. And before we go back to the phones,
what I was going to mention, the taxation question comes up a lot.
Yeah.
There are 12 states that do tax Social Security benefits. With state income tax. Now, prior to, I think it was 1982, Social Security benefits were not taxed. And since then, they have been taxed. But there are just 12 states that still continue to tax those benefits. We're working on one of those. We're working on that piece to provide some income tax relief for Social Security benefits beneficiaries in the state of Minnesota. And I think the important thing to remember is that Social Security was never intended to really bolster state funds, right? And the difference is the federal income tax that folks pay on their Social Security benefits goes back into the trust fund to support future Social Security beneficiaries. But that is probably the number one question that we get at our state office in Minnesota is, about taxes on Social Security benefits. And it's something we're working on.
Of course, AARP, you're always ahead of the game, I feel like. I don't even know if our viewers are aware of how much you're doing on the ground when it comes to Social Security, when it comes to Medicare, for example. You really fight for your members, and I just respect that so much about AARP. Rick joins us next. I believe you're joining us from Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining us, sir. Go right ahead. Rick, are you with us? Okay. Well, I want to talk about something that hasn't come up. Rick, is that you? Okay. There's been a lot of discussion regarding the future of Social Security. It seems like it comes up, there's a lull for a few years, but now that question has heightened. We're hearing it more often. Tell us what you know.
There is a test that's held. It's called the Annual Trustees Report that comes out in spring and into the summer. The dates of release have moved in towards the summer, but it's essentially the economic health of the Social Security trust funds. And if you look at what last year's report indicated, it said by 2035, only about 80% of benefits will be paid out. And it's strictly math. It's the number of people working and the number of people drawing. I would defer to the AARP folks. They have a lot more information about, the trustees report and where to go forward with it.
Well, and what I would say about that, I think in some ways, so I think if you're younger and you sort of have heard that myth that Social Security won't be there for me when I retire, I think when you hear 80%, you're like, oh, really? That's great. That's more than I thought. But I think if you're getting closer to retirement, hearing that it's only going to be 80% is, gets you a little anxious. And so I want to assure everyone that AARP, we are focused on working with Congress and with whoever's in the White House whenever we tackle this issue to come up with a bipartisan solution that's going to strengthen the program and make sure that everyone across the country who has paid into the program gets the benefit that you've earned and that you deserve and that you need to get into your retirement. So it's something we keep an eye on every year to watch where that number is because it kind of moves a little bit here and there. But we are 100% committed to ensuring that Social Security is a strong program that provides a benefit for folks that they, again, they've earned. We're all paying into it, and we all want to get back something that we've earned at the time when we're ready to retire.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to really highlight about that is just how important Social Security is for those who receive the benefit. I mean, the average payment is around $1,600, $1,700 a month, but for half of households 65 and older, that represents 50% or more of their income. And it accounts for 80% of income for 1 in 5 of those households. So this truly is a safety net for individuals. And so, we know that Social Security was never meant to be the sole source of retirement income for individuals. It's part of that three-legged stool that we talk about. But as fewer and fewer employers are offering traditional pensions, in the state of Minnesota, only about 13% of folks don't have access to a retirement savings plan at work. And so this really is a safety net for those individuals to have that guaranteed income when they retire.
Yeah, it's critically important in rural America. We know that as well.
Yes.
Okay, that leaves a line open for you tonight, 877-283-7570. You still have time to get your question in, and you might just be a winner. Next up, we're going to Michigan. We're really covering all the states dates this evening. Al joins us tonight. Thanks for joining us, Al. Go right ahead.
I'm trying to sign up for Social Security, and I went to the Social Security office and waited for an hour. And then they're going to call me in February. We've already scheduled a date and a time when they're going to call me. I found that extremely strange that everything you hear, we're not supposed to give our information out over the phone, and yet the Social Security office is going to call me on this pre-scheduled date.
Yeah, the thing I would say, and I'll let Stephen talk about this as well, but the biggest difference is that you initiated that interaction, that you went to the Social Security office, you made the appointment, they gave you that time and date in person that they were going to call you, and because you initiated that conversation, I think you're in a good place with that. But Stephen might have some.
Yeah, you can also take the next step if you have any suspicions about it at all. You can always contact that local office again and say, look, I just want to verify my appointment. Do you have all this correct information that was given you? And just to be certain and give you some peace of mind, you could always reach out and contact that office again.
Well, and Christina, if I could add in too, because you say we always are at AARP, we're always trying to sort of fight the good fight for Americans and our members. But the Social Security Administration has been backlogged on trying to do customer service and in a timely manner, and that's been a challenge that's been going on for sure over COVID and kind of the challenges, but probably for years. Stephen could talk more to that. But we really put a priority on advocating for more funding to be sure that that Social Security Administration can staff those offices in a way that you don't have to wait for an hour and that there's a little bit more immediacy in getting your response. So that's going to take time to get that kind of turned around in the right direction, but I just wanted to share that AARP, that's something we were aware of and that we worked on and that we got a good victory on Capitol Hill right before the holidays.
I love it. Okay, We're going to go back to the phones. Our next caller is going to be a winner. 877-283-7570 is the number to call. We're going to Virginia this evening. Earl joins us now. Thanks for joining us, Earl. Congratulations. You're a winner, sir. Go right ahead.
Hey, Christina. How y'all?
Good.
I'm a senior in my 70s, a Vietnam veteran, and a captive Rfd viewer. But really, Christina, what I need to do is, instead of a question, I would like to bring to the attention of all the veterans that your VA medical benefits are directly tied to your income. So when you get that Social Security form, I think it's SSA 1099, be sure to use that form, the Medicare Part B premium deductions, when you fill out your means test, which we have to do every year to determine our eligibility. Because if you don't use that deduction, it could seriously affect your eligibility for benefits. Just wanted to bring a heads up to all the vets out there.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you for your service, first of all. And I just love that our viewers are so smart as well, right? When they can share information with us.
Yeah. Did you want to comment on that at all?
I didn't. It's a government program. It's fantastic. That you brought that to the attention of all. It's extremely important.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go back to the phone. Warren joins us now. Thanks for joining us, sir. Go right ahead with your question.
Yes, I'm calling in reference to, I'm a veteran also, and I just had surgery, and it's put me in a situation where I got to draw for my disability and also for retirement. And I've already did the interview and everything with Social Security, and I'm going forth as far as I've received my check from September.
Okay, very good. And it's an excellent illustration that Social Security is not just a retirement program. There's so much more to it, and Social Security Disability Insurance is one of those programs. You made a really good point about filing for Social Security Disability Insurance and retirement at the same time. People might say, how do you do that? Why would you do that? Well, as it was pointed out earlier, that you could draw as early as age 62, provided you're not working, but remember the drawing and the amount of money that you could get if you go prior or younger than by drawing your benefits, younger than what your full retirement age is. If you were born after 1960, your full retirement age is 67. But if you go at 62 or 63 or 64, it's a reduced benefit. Your Social Security disability insurance benefit is not a reduced benefit. So if you were 62 or 63 or 64 and you filed for Social Security disability insurance and retirement at the same time, what the agency would do is would pay you your retirement benefit until that Social Security disability insurance benefit is adjudicated, processed, and paid. And then any monies due you in a retroactive sense would be paid and you'd be brought up to a level funding.
You know, people are living longer this day and age. We're seeing great research going into cancer prevention, for example, better treatment of cardiovascular disease. So these are all things that you have to consider as you're making these big decisions as to when to start taking out your Social Security. We're going to go back to the phones. Nancy joins us from Georgia now. Thanks for joining us, Nancy. Go right ahead.
Hi, my question is, I started drawing 6 months ago, due mainly to my mom having problems with her health. I had to stay home with her. And I'm thinking she's better and I could go back to working more hours at work. Is there a way to pause Social Security and then start redrawing again later if I decided to retire later?
Yes,
I'm 65.
Yes, and this is a really, really good question, and we've referenced it on the show here earlier a couple of times. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about working and collecting. It's a common question that people have, and it's a great question. And you're like a perfect example of how you can use the program to your advantage. If you're under your full retirement age, based on your year of birth, if you're between 62 through the year that you turn this full retirement age amount, you're allowed to earn $21,240 a year. For every $2 you earn over that amount, the agency will take one back. If the amount of money earned mathematically eliminates payment over a 12-month period, then your benefits will essentially go into what's called work suspense. So a couple of things happen here when you do that. Number one, you're not going to get your benefit. And when you lower your wages later in life, when you finally decide that you do want to do so, your benefits will resume. But what also happens is, for every month that you didn't get a payment because of going into work suspense, you will have that money recredited to your account, and you'll see an increase in your benefit. They're called delayed retirement credits, or it's a quality step increase is essentially what you get, but you do get credit for all those months that you didn't collect benefits because of the wage, the wages you were earning put you into what essentially is work suspense. Good question.
Excellent.
I'm
Okay.
glad Stephen is here, right?
We've had quite a few Social Security experts on our show over the years, and I'm not just talking about this show. On many Rfd-Tv shows, you might just be the most knowledgeable, sir. You might just be. I'm very impressed tonight.
His head's gonna get big. Get him out of the studio.
Well, after working for the Social Security Administration for 40 years, it's the least we can do for you. All right, we have a winner on the other side of this break to get to. It could be you. You still have time to get your question in. You still have time to be a winner. 877-283-7570 is the number to call. Stay with us. More Rural America Live with AARP coming your way right after this. Welcome back. We're taking calls, your calls about Social Security. We still have a cooler to give away, so we're going to go straight to the phones. 877-283-7570 is the number to call and join our conversation. We'd love to hear from you tonight. We're going to a new state. Tom from Missouri joins us now. Thanks for joining us, Tom. Go right ahead.
Yes, I have a question of what's the best age to start. I'm a farmer and the wife is as well, and we're just wondering what our best age is to start drawing.
I mean, this is the question of all questions. In working in this agency for 40 years and educating people about the program, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of rules and regulations. And what you get out of great shows like this that are full of resources is an explanation of all these moving parts. So you as an individual can land on that all-important answer to the question of when. And the truth of the matter is that everybody's when is different. And there's so many different factors to consider. Health, long-term health, health of your spouse, economic health, There are so many different, issues and so many different things, and it comes at different levels. And really what I've found, and again, in doing this for 40 years, is that there's really no magic bullet here. At the end of the day, you're the one who calls the shot. You're the one who decides.
And if I could just add, we do, I mentioned earlier that we have the, different resources on our website, and there is a calculator there, and we also do some webinars, but there's a calculator there that you can go in and put some of these factions in, and it will give you some information that you can consider about if you wait till this time to start claiming, this is what the benefit will be. If you wait a little longer, this is what it's going to be. So that might be one place to start, and again, that website is aarp.org/Social Security. But there's also, we do some webinars and things like that really walk you through a lot of the different things, and information is there as well. But also, I think it's talking to someone at the Social Security Administration might give you the best idea, but maybe you'll have an opportunity to do some of your research first and then make that call.
I love it. I love everything that you do to help everyone out there. This isn't just if you're 50 or older. You can go on there right now.
Yes,
the last thing anyone wants is to outlive their savings.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we want to enjoy a healthy quality of life after we worked so hard to earn that retirement. So that is a great resource for anybody. You might want to share that one on your social media pages. We're going to go to Mike from Colorado next. Thanks for joining us, Mike. Go right ahead.
Hello. Yes. I wonder how the spousal benefit is calculated once I pass on. I was the larger earner in our family, but I just wonder what my spouse can expect.
Yeah, really good question, and thanks for bringing it. And it always should be asked. Always ask it, and don't even think twice about it. There is a fundamental difference between your spouse drawing benefits from you while you're alive and if you were to predecease your spouse. While you're alive, your spouse is eligible for up to half of your benefit, depending upon your spouse's age at the time of drawing. It really didn't matter what age you drew at. Your spouse is eligible for what's referred to as your full retirement age amount, half of it, and then we would reduce it for your spouse's age at the time of drawing. At the time of death, under the survivor provision, your spouse would be eligible for your entire benefit, whatever your benefit was at the time of your death. And that would fall back on, well, I started to draw when I was 64, and I've been on for about 15, 16 years now. Well, that would be the benefit that your spouse would fall back on. So just know that the survivor benefit is 100% of your benefit. But again, it's always going to be based on your spouse's age at the time you pass away, if you were to predecease your spouse. If your spouse is older than their full retirement age, then they would get 100% of the survivor benefit. If they were, say, 60, 61, 62, their survivor benefit would also be reduced for their age. I hope that's good. That's a great question. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate that. We still have a cooler to give away. It could be yours. 877-283-7570 is the number to call and join our conversation. We're going to go back to the phones in a moment. We talked a little bit about how Social Security is not meant to be the sole source of income for retirees. What would you recommend to help fill those gaps? I think how do you view Social Security is a great place to start. It was stated earlier in the show that your Social Security is going to represent about 41% of your pre-retirement income. So what is it? It's that base for you to build your portfolio on, whether it be savings or pensions or 401ks. And I think the resources that the AARP people can add to this as well. Okay.
Yeah, and we know that not everyone has that opportunity to save through a workplace retirement plan. You know, the days of, I said it earlier, the days of the traditional pensions have gone away. They're very rare. Yes. It's kind of a unicorn to have one these days. But if your workplace doesn't offer something, a vehicle for you to save for retirement, those are things that AARP works on as well. For instance, in the state of Minnesota, we're working on an issue called Secure Choice, which would set up a public-private partnership that would allow folks who work in businesses that don't have an established 401k plan a way for them to put some dollars away for their future. Because again, it was never meant to be, a full replacement. It's that safety net.
I love it. I love it. You're giving people a lot to think about tonight. And I mean, the last thing we want to think about is outliving our savings. But you really have to plan ahead for it. It's something you have to think about. You've got to think about everybody in your family as well. Help them get their minds on the right things. Glenn from Pennsylvania, what's on your mind tonight? Thanks for joining us, sir. Glenn?
Hello. I was wondering, I have a son that's, he'll be 62 in May, and he's not able to work. How could I get him a disability Social Security?
Yeah, again, I mean, this is a really good question. It's an illustration that Social Security is so much more than retirement. It's so much more than spouses or survivor benefits. There's also this safety net, this Social Security disability insurance benefit. It is a filing, it is an application process. The best thing that he should do is he could reach out to his Social Security office and set up an appointment, with the local office, and they'll walk him through how to best to navigate. If he's good with the internet, he can start this process online. But they'll take this application and they'll take a disability claim on him. So it's really important that he do so. And if there's one thing I learned in 40 years working with this agency is, and I would often be asked this question, just like yours, people would come and describe their child or the condition of their child or the condition of a friend or themselves. And what they essentially would be asking me was, should I file? And the answer is always, yes, you should file. Always file a claim, always file a disability insurance claim. And as we pointed out earlier, depending upon what his work history was, he could not only file for Social Security disability insurance, but while the case is being processed, he can actually file for retirement benefits and draw income from it. So I hope that helps. That's a really good question.
And some people commonly have to file more than once as well. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, I think that there is an appeal process that takes place, right? I mean, 3 and 10 will become disabled before they reach their late 60s, and 2 and 10 will pass away. So the number of people that are filing, the definition is a strict one. You have to be suffering from a condition that's severe enough to keep you out of work for at least a year or have it result in your death. Not that you have to be out for the year, but it has to be a serious condition. So filing is a process that you have to go through, but due process is also afforded.
Yes.
All these claims that if the case is denied, you can file an appeal.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Just incredibly valuable information tonight. You talked about your 40 years with the Social Security Administration. I would ask you, over the years, what have been some of the biggest changes that you observed? Yeah, I think, and I talked earlier, there hasn't been a lot of changes. I mean, I would give presentations and people would ask me, Steve, how often do the rules change? And there were really two answers to it. Not much, but there's also, they can change tomorrow. For example, the spousal draws back in the fall of 2015, spousal options, many fundamental changes were taken off the table for spouses, to draw from there. A spouse A from a B or a B from an A. So those were changes that took place from a stroke of a pen. But in general terms, not a lot changes. I think people tend to, what I've seen in 40 years is that people tend to look at Social Security in isolation. It's kind of a benefit that's out there that I really don't have to think about till later in life. And what I would always argue to people is that, look, to the average wage earner, Social Security is going to represent about 41% of your pre-retirement income. So you should be pulling this Social Security into your retirement portfolio conversation and think about that in the long term. It's really important to do that. The earlier you plan, the Always.
better.
Any financial planner will point
all
that
questions
out.
are good questions.
That's right. We're going to the Bluegrass State next. Beulah joins us from Kentucky, and you are our final winner tonight. Yay. Thank you so much for joining us. Go right ahead with your question.
Thank you very much. My question is, my husband has been retired and on Social Security for several years, but now he's in his 80s and disabled, and I have to take care of him. I wonder, would Social Security let him switch his regular Social Security to disability Social Security?
Yeah, and this question would come up, and it's a good question. It really is. Just remember, I had pointed out earlier in the show that your Social Security disability benefit is a full unreduced benefit if you had filed for it. But the kicker is you have to file for that benefit prior to your full retirement age. So if he's been drawing all these years, the benefit that he's drawing, unfortunately, ma'am, is going to be the benefit he's going to get.
Okay, thank you so much for that call. We appreciate you very much, Beulah from Kentucky. Congratulations again on winning that hard side cooler. And by the way, if you did win a cooler tonight, AARP is also going to cover the shipping for you. We love that. All right, we are at that moment in the show where everybody gets a chance to share their final thoughts. Stephen, let's start with you.
Well, I think you just had what was a whopping cost of living increase. So that's always a hot topic of discussion, and it's just keep in mind that it's tracked up until the last week of the third quarter of the previous year. So if you become a Social Security recipient, you really want to pay attention to this and focus on it. I mean, like a laser beam, throughout the summer, you want to follow the Consumer Price Index and how it's tracked through the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's not that hard to do, and you really should pay attention to it. And always just keep in mind what the other things happen with cost of living increases, and that is changes in the amount of money that you're allowed to earn if once you retire, changes in a quarter of coverage if you're just starting to work for Social Security. Changes in the FICA tax max was probably the biggest ones this year, right? Yeah. The FICA tax max went from 147 to 160, right? So it's a $13,000 jump, which is a monster, and it really is. And if the FICA tax max is once you reach this point in earnings, we Social Security will no longer take taxes out of your pay. So all these factors, you really want to start paying attention to this stuff. You have time now.
Yeah. It's tough if you are on a fixed income and you're going to the grocery store just to get eggs, milk, meat. Yep. It's become a lot more expensive, and people are noticing that as they watch every single cent where it goes as it stands. So I'm really grateful to have you on tonight. Thank you for your expertise.
You're welcome.
What are your final thoughts for us tonight, Sarah?
Well, I want to pitch our resources again. Again, we have these amazing resources that will answer a lot of your questions, or if you want to dig a little deeper into some of the things we talked about tonight, you can go to our website at aarp.org/Social Security. And again, poke around there, learn something new. And I also want to, earlier in the broadcast, I said I want to put the Social Security Administration's site out there for you as well, which is ssa.gov, G-O-V. So ssa.gov, and that's if you want to look into setting up your account, or if you already have an account, go check out what your numbers are looking like, and there's a lot of good information there as well. So I hope everyone will continue to use those resources, and also use your Social Security Administration that's locally, and also join us some of those AARP events that you can do with webinars and things. We'd love to see you on some of those as well.
And you might as well shout out your husband, because he's on Market Day Report all the time. And our viewers may not be aware, Brian Jennings.
Yes, my husband is Brian Jennings of American Coalition for Ethanol, and he's another RFD. So we're the Rfd-Tv couple.
Hey, we love that. We like that. What are your final thoughts for us tonight, Kathy?
Yeah, well, we've talked a lot about Social Security being just part of your overall retirement plan, and a big piece of understanding what those benefits are going to be are simply finding out what you're entitled to, what those benefits are going to be for you. And we have, again, on our resource center that Sarah mentioned, we have a calculator that can help you determine that. And a lot of folks start poking around when they're maybe 6 months or a year from retirement, but the time when you really should be looking at that calculator is when you're about 10 years out, so that you know what that benefit is going to be and how that fits into your overall plan.
All right, well, thank you all so much again for joining us. We've run out of time. Make sure you join us February 16th for estate planning tips right here on RFD-TV. Wishing you and your family a beautifully blessed evening.